I've ranked both videos and web content at the top of YouTube and Google search results for keywords specific to my industry. That's how I make a living. Essentially, my business is an SEO business. So I'll show you all of the best practices I've learned over the years and how to use the RankMath SEO plugin for WordPress to feed information about your business or website to Google. If Google accurately understands what your website is about and what you're offering, they'll be able to categorize you better and prioritize you in search results for that industry. However, RankMath is a powerful tool. There are a lot of modules and a lot of settings that, when misconfigured, can actually confuse Google and ruin your chances of ranking. To avoid this, I'll go setting by setting and explain each option in detail. So, after installing RankMath on WordPress, start by selecting the Advanced mode, giving us more options and modules to work with, because the basic ones don't really cut it for what we're about to do here. Now let's get started on giving Google some data. Select what type of website you're operating. For most people, it's either going to be a small business site, if it's to represent yourself online, or a web shop if you're doing e-commerce. Next, select a business type that best represents your website. If you can't find anything on this list, you can just go with a local business option. Now enter the name of your website. It's usually going to be your business name. For example, in my case, it's Emit.Reviews. I don't have an alternative name, but a good example of an alternative name would be the World Health Organization, often referred to as WHO. So their alt name would be WHO. The organization/person name is, again, either your business or personal name. Some people build their brands off their names, so this will help your site show up if people Google your name. Additionally, I highly recommend you upload a logo for Google. It's going to be displayed next to the search results, just like this. And trust me, it helps capture visitor attention. It helps you stand out. And if you want to win that click, you have to do everything you can to stand out from other search results, because the first result is not always the one that people click the most. It has to be at least 112 by 112 pixels in size and transparent. Obviously, best if you just have a small square image. For the default social share image, it's a photo that's going to show up when someone links something from your website and that link does not have a picture associated with it. You can use this opportunity to bring clarity about your business to the client before he clicks. But this won't directly impact SEO, it's just a nice to have thing to boost conversion and click rates from direct advertising. Now, RankMath SEO wants for you to connect your website with the Google Search Console. This is a great idea and we'll definitely do this a bit later, but for now, let's finish up setting RankMath. So skip for now and we'll get back to this once we're done. The default RankMath sitemap options are perfect. Don't need to tweak them at all. By the way, a sitemap is like a literal map of your site. Since Google sends little robots called crawlers to visit every single page of your website and index it, a sitemap helps that robot to do a better and more efficient job. Since now, instead of guessing where to go and how everything works and how everything links together, you provide that information for him. As for SEO tweaks, here you have an interesting choice to make. Either activate the nofollow tag or leave it deactivated. If you activate it, every single time you post a link on your website to someone else's website, you tell Google, hey, I don't know anything about this guy, I'm just posting this link for informational purposes. I'm not vouching for their site. If you leave it off, however, Google will interpret it as you vouching for the websites you link to, increasing their reputation based on your reputation. The regular or standard practice in SEO is to have it on and remove the nofollow tag manually on a case-to-case basis. But if you're planning to grow together with some friendly businesses where you'll link to each other's articles and you'll only use reputable sources or businesses in your website, there's actually no harm in keeping this off. After this, we're done with the very broad strokes of our SEO strategy, the very foundation. But we still need to fine-tune it, fill in the details, and set up custom rules for different pages. For this still, plenty of work left to be done. First of all, go into your WordPress settings, and in the Permalinks section, if you're still using the default option called plain, change it to post name. We do this because plain gives zero information to Google, so they have a harder time understanding what your website is about. Post name lets you actually properly name your page links, giving more context to Google, thus boosting your SEO. And a lot of this SEO tweaking is stuff like that. It's small details that's going to give more context about your business and your website to Google so they can better understand it, categorize it, and if you're better than your competition, rank you higher. So let's get to work on making sure that Google understands what we're all about. After that, go back to RankMath SEO and choose the modules you want active. Some of these only come with the paid version, but I recommend you only go with the 404 Monitor, ACF, Image SEO, Instant Indexing, Local SEO if you're a local business owner, Schema, and Sitemap if you're on the free version. If you're on the paid version, also activate Video Sitemap if you do have video content available for your site. The rest of the stuff like analytics, redirects, content AI, etc. is just database bloat, which turns your website slower, which makes your SEO worse because Google likes fast websites. Don't activate what you don't use. Let's now go to the Settings tab and go over each option you should activate or deactivate to reach best results. You can copy my settings from this screen, but again, the only controversial one is the no-follow external links. As I mentioned before, if you want to stake your reputation on the quality of sources you use and work together with other businesses to help your SEO, keep this off. But if you plan on using shady sources and not vetting the info you copy-paste on your site, it is better to activate this. Hit Save Changes and move on to Breadcrumbs. Now, breadcrumbs enhance user experience by having a proper trail of links visible, allowing users to easily navigate large sites, for example, that are above 1,000 pages. This is a lifesaver because you can't possibly fit all of that into a regular site menu. But for sites with just a few pages, even less than 100 pages, I personally would keep this off, as the upside is minimal and the effort to get it working is quite large. If you want to activate this and your theme doesn't support breadcrumbs naturally, you can add this code to either your single.php or header.php files of a child theme. If you have breadcrumbs activated, here are the optimal settings I recommend. The only variables are how you want to name your prefix and if you want your blog page to be visible or not. I personally have mine visible because I like that users can browse all of my posts in one place. Moving on to images, which are a big part of your SEO because again, they give a lot of context on what the page is about to Google. But this is only available if you use the Pro version. I recommend you activate Add the Missing Alt attributes. This way, you won't need to add them in manually for each photo. Alt attributes are like text descriptions of what the photo is about, like a person climbing a ladder. This is displayed if the image can't be loaded, but you can add these in manually on each photo if you don't have the Pro version of RankMath available. Next, we'll go into the Webmaster Tools, where you can link various other services like Google Search Console to your RankMath account for faster communication. So visit search.google.com/search-console to sign up for an account. In the URL prefix tab, type in your website name with an HTTPS tag and click Continue. Now select the HTML tag and copy it. Go back to RankMath and paste in the tag and click on Save Changes. If for any reason this fails to validate, try clearing your website cache. If it still fails, use the DNS verification method by adding a TXT record to your DNS. This is a little bit harder to do, but works absolutely every single time on absolutely every single website. But let's assume the HTML tag worked absolutely no problem from first try. So moving on, you have the edit robots.txt option. This is a file that's like an instruction manual to the crawlers visiting your site. make sure it has your sitemap listed. So it's like your website handing them a map as soon as they visit. Other than the sitemap, there's no must include parts here, because this part will only be read by robots, not people. Now, the other and WooCommerce settings are good as is on the default values, so you don't need to make any changes there. Moving on to the edit.htaccess option, this doesn't directly impact SEO, but remember, SEO is all about a lot of small steps, so we can take this opportunity to implement security headers into our website. You can customize this code, but I like using these options. What this does is it acts like a home security system. Without these security headers, your website is like a house with just a basic lock. With them, however, it's like having a professional security system. Door locks, window sensors, security cameras, intercom system, and visitor screening, monitoring and protecting your site 24/7. So I highly recommend making the upgrade while you're here. Next up, we have the 404 monitor. This actively monitors your website if you have any links that lead to nowhere. Since having broken links is bad for SEO, Google doesn't want to send people to a page that doesn't work. So catching the mistakes early or creating redirects to fix your broken pages is extremely important. Luckily, the default settings here work just fine, and you'll catch all of the errors before they start causing havoc on your website. So at this point, we're done with the general settings. Let's move on to the title and meta, where it gets more customized. Here, I recommend you copy my settings, as I won't go through each option. I'll only specifically call out settings that might need to be customized. Feel free to pause the video if you need to at any point. The most important part here is the open graph thumbnail. Again, this is the image that will be shown when you link your page on Facebook. Having a logo displayed or a quick summary of what your business is all about is completely fine. Moving on to local SEO, all of it is pretty self-explanatory. Fill in this information to the best of your ability. Provide as much context on what your business is all about to Google as possible. The social media tab doesn't really influence your SEO, so I'll be skipping it for this video. Next, disable authors. This is a pretty major one. Think of this as double stamping your mail. Your WordPress site already shows who wrote what, and turning on the author setting just adds extra code that Google doesn't need. It can actually confuse search engines and might slow your website down a tiny bit. As for the miscellaneous pages, the only thing you want to change is your 404 page title if your website is in another language or you just don't like the default one. Moving on to posts, here you can control how the search engine entries should look. The default option is title, followed by a separator, followed by your business name. You can remove the separator and site name if that makes sense for your business. But in some cases where your website name is the main keyword you're trying to rank for, it helps having it in. But remember, these are only the fallback settings. We'll actually add in custom titles and custom descriptions to each one of our pages for best results. These settings are for RankMath to just have something available if you don't fill in the details manually. As for schema, it's probably going to be an article because you're most often trying to rank various blog posts. As the article type, go for what's closest to the type of content you plan on writing. Finally, enable post robots meta with the option being index. The rest of the options are good as is. With pages, the only thing I recommend changing is setting the schema type to none, activate the page robots meta index, and again, determine if you want to use your site name in the title as the default option. Next, we go to the landing page option. It's a very similar deal to pages here, but a landing page is a separate page dedicated to selling just one service or product. It's mostly used for ads, so if you advertise a vacuum cleaner model 34X, but your website sells 600 different vacuum cleaners, you don't want for people to end up on your homepage confused on what to buy. You can create a landing page where people from the ad will land. That's dedicated to just Vacuum Cleaner 34X. So schema choice for these pages is much more important. What your landing page will be about: a course, a service, a product. You'll want to activate robots meta as index so these pages can show up on Google search results, and the schema just determines what type of additional details will be displayed together with the search result. For example, some star ratings, maybe an insert from your product, or a direct buy button. Again, all of this seems extremely small, but I can't stress this enough. SEO is all about very meaningful but small changes, all working together for an effective SEO strategy. Moving on to floating elements, these are stuff like pop-ups, live chat windows, and scrolling headers. You don't actually want Google to index them because they're not really a page, they're just an element. So do the schema as none and make sure that robots meta is set to as no index, so Google completely ignores these entries and they don't hurt your SEO strategy. As for products, if you have WooCommerce installed, the default settings work just great. RankMath actually did quite a good job in setting the default values to what you actually need. Finally, the header and footer options are just framework pages that don't need any SEO. So you should set the schema type as none as well as the robots meta should be set to no index, no follow, link suggestions, and everything else is completely off. For categories, we want them to be indexed by Google, so set robots meta to index. Enable SEO controls to have the ability to manually edit meta titles and descriptions of the categories later, and activate the remove snippet data. We remove snippet data because category pages are like the signs in a library that help people find books, but you want Google to focus on your actual content, the books, not the signs pointing to them. Removing snipping data helps Google understand that these are navigational pages, not content pages. For the same reason, we want the tags to be no index as well. Essentially, by using no index on these actions, you're telling Google, hey, these are just organizational tools, focus on my actual content, please. Now I'll quickly go over some e-commerce settings. For product brands, you want to activate the robots meta and set it to index, as you want people to find your store or your products when they're looking for specific brands on Google, because you might be selling those brands. The product categories and tags page is already configured the way it's supposed to be. No need to make any changes here. Moving on to sitemap, we'll tweak what kind of info we present to the robots crawling our website. RankMath actually submits your map to Google automatically. We just need to tell RankMath what we want to send. These options will highly depend on the type of website you have, so I'll leave an article with the official RankMath recommendations in the description down below. Using it, you can determine the best settings for your project. But as a rule of thumb, in the General tab, activate the Include Featured Images option, then make sure that posts, pages, and landing pages, as well as products and categories, are included in your sitemap. Once you have tweaked all of these settings, go back to the General tab and copy your sitemap address. This sitemap includes all of the different maps we want for Google to see. So in the Google Search Console, navigate to the sitemap area and submit your link. This will make sure Google has the most up-to-date version of your complete sitemap, so they can distribute it to the crawlers, indexing your web page, making sure that every page shows up on Google faster and more accurately. So this covers the general practices of your SEO strategy. But SEO has many different segments that all work together to create the best effect. Getting these settings right is the easiest step you can take alongside having a fast website, because if you go to GTmetrix and do a speed test and see that your website doesn't load faster than in 2 seconds, you're in trouble.
Oh dear, we are in trouble.
Google actively tries to avoid sending people to websites that load slowly because it's just not effective. So having a fast website is one of the easiest way you can improve your SEO results. So I highly recommend switching to a faster web hosting provider if you're struggling with website speed. You can find the web hosting providers that I personally recommend somewhere in the top corner right here. I'll have a pop-up. But to really get some significant results from your SEO strategy, you'll need to add in custom, very carefully written meta titles and descriptions to your pages, products, and posts, as well as have quality content that people want to read. To learn how to do that, watch this video next, and you'll be miles ahead of your competition with a solid SEO strategy that you did yourself and you did it for free. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something new, and I'll see you in the next video.